In today's hyper-connected world, seamless global connectivity has become an essential requirement, even when soaring 40,000 feet above the ground. Today we're joined by Mohamed, the CEO of Skyfive Arabia, to tell us more about the company's innovative in-flight connectivity solution and the immense benefit it brings to both users and airline clients. Mohamed, thank you so much for joining us today. First of all, I would like to congratulate you on the expansion of Skyfive into the Middle East market.
Thank you very much, Karim. A pleasure to be here.
If you can tell us more about Skyfive Arabia, and your operations.
Okay, basically Skyfive Arabia, it's a joint Saudi-German investment. The objective is basically to extend the technology of Skyfive from Europe across Middle East and Africa. Skyfive originally have been spinned out from Nokia in 2019. We're basically offering what we call the air-to-ground. In simple words, this means offering 4G services to offer the internet on the aircrafts rather than the satellite. This was already established in 2019, and now we are setting the headquarters in Saudi, and our first contract was with Saudi Telecom early this year during the LEAP event, where we signed a 15 years partnership with STC.
Now, as an expert in in-flight connectivity, can you tell us more about the trends that are shaping the aviation market today?
Sure. Look, in any industry, there's always the objective about making profit, reducing your OPEX and all that. Having a differentiator, how to attract more customers, more subscribers, more users to your service. It's a competition, you need a differentiator. If we start looking generically from the industry itself, we're looking on sustainability and where we can offer different services. And that I'm referring to the airlines, how they can serve their customers better with the most efficient solutions. When we come to the in-flight connectivity and what we are able to offer, I can claim that we are offering 10 times better, 10 times more cost optimized. What does this mean? It means for a lot of airlines, rather than investing heavily in offering the basic services that the subscriber, the passengers need to have, like we always say, connected everywhere, but are you actually connected on the aircrafts? You have a very limited bandwidth with the current connectivity what's being offered. So if I'm able to offer 10 times the performance, having a higher customer experience, and when I say experience, I mean that you have the same services like you're having at home. Having Netflix, having all the entertainment systems, having a live video calls, having a live voice over IP, no much of limitation. The air-to-ground with Skyfive is doing a very strong disruption to the aviation technology, and the airlines are actually, surprisingly, rather than we are going to them, they are seeking the air-to-ground technology to be deployed on their aircrafts.
Most of the airlines are now heavily reliant on SATCOM and similar technologies to offer their in-flight connectivity services. What are the limitations, or how does your solution compare to these existing solutions?
Okay, the main thing, since we are offering a 4G service from the ground, so this means I need to have a ground station, a tower, where I'm able to offer that. That's number one. Number two, I need to have a service provider on the ground who will do the internet breakout to the internet world. Number three, I need to cover certain areas like the sea and the oceans. So those are the three main ingredients, prerequisite what we want. If you look at the 5G, it takes time from taking the license, taking the regulatory approval, and putting the system on the ground and offering the service to the end customer. That's what we're doing. Today, we are partnering with the different regulatory bodies, with the governments, convincing them what is the value add for this service, and then how to deploy it, and then doing the rollout in each country. The key challenge, of course, it takes time to talking to regulatories and convincing them, look, this is a service which have been offered in Europe. It's running since 2018. There are more than 5 airlines running it, and it's expanding. We would like to have the same experience what Europe have across Middle East and Africa. The second challenge would be how we will cover the areas where you have ocean, you have water. So there are a lot of discussions with different service providers from satellite point of view, how we can partner with them in the future. So when the aircraft is flying over the land, it's using the air to ground. When it comes over the oceans and the sea, it can do a switch over and a toggling, okay? Then the service is being offered into this area. We do have the advantage that one tower or one base station can cover up to 150 kilometers in radius, but still we need to plan for what is the worldwide solution would look like. So now we're starting with the area where we are starting Saudi, the GCC, Middle East, North Africa, and the appetite from different airlines. Of course, you have two kinds of airlines. You have the commercial airlines, which have what we call low-cost carriers, and the normal commercial, which is normal fixed. Then you have the other one, which is quite interesting, which are the private jets. And this is a very interesting segment, because if you look how expensive passengers are willing to pay for a private jet of 8-15 persons, and how much they are willing to pay to have the full service like home on the aircrafts. So in that models, we have two different. We're talking on a B2B2C, going all the way to the end passenger. If I'm talking to the aircraft, I'm talking to the company, all the kinds of services that I can offer them.
And you mentioned the hybrid model where passengers and users can use both the SATCOM and also the A2G. Is that going to affect the user's experience in any way?
There are two aspects here. The first aspect, the user would be expected to be connected everywhere, every time. So if you're going to have a long haul flight that you're going over the ocean or over the sea and you don't have, so that's one aspect to cover. So you want to give him the connectivity there. The second is the service that he gets. So if he's getting the streaming, watching the movie, caching and all that over, let's say, 4 hours out of the 8 hours, and then he has a different kind of service over the sea, he's still connected, but he's not getting the full-fledged. So those are the two aspects. That's why I mentioned earlier, we are in discussion with different satellite providers. What is the right way? Because they already have the experience, the expectations, but they also have the challenges, what they are not able to offer. And this is where we come to complement one another. So I always say it's not the air-to-ground or the satellite. We will always coexist because we offer points that will complement our solution together.
That's when it comes to the user experience. Now, how about the first client, which is the airline? How does the new solution benefit them?
From an airline, because of the very high cost of equipping the aircrafts, okay, and the longer term of return on investment, if there's any in that sense, then we come with a much more cost optimized. How is this important? Not all airlines have their fleets are the wide body, the A350, A380, the Dreamliners. They also have the smaller routes, the travel routes, which are the normal Airbus 320, 321, or what we call it the narrow body fleets. To put on that as a low cost carrier and to load it with a 6 figures cost, then how much do you think that they're making profit per seat? Double-digit dollar. Okay, so if we come and give a much more commercially disruptive model and very cost optimized, then they are able to offer service for aircrafts which are not able to access at all. In our case, since you have the big pipe, you can use your Netflix account. You can use whatever account you. I don't need to put all this entertainment at the back end. That's one. The second thing, which is quite important, and that's a feedback from the management of airlines, the big segment, which are the families and the children, they don't want to wait only for the games that you are offering. They want to play their own online games from home. This we can give because you are able to instantly connect to your account, to your system, and to what the kids are used and love playing with. That gives a bit of an edge on that.
Mohamed, in your opinion, how can we expedite the deployment of the new technology?
The aviation industry is a very strict industry, so not just the regulatory bodies, but even the civil aviation. So number one, to touch any airplane, you really need to have what we call supplementary certification that this air type with this kind of connectivity will be installed in that way. There are a handful of companies who are allowed to do that into every airline and every aviation. So the first thing, we talk with the aviation to tell them this is the solution, this is how it's running in Europe, and this is how we deploy it. The second part, like you rightly said, is the regulatory bodies, because since we're going to be building a service provider network, having the spectrum and building the core network and the infrastructure, this needs a discussion with the governmental bodies, not just even the regulatory that give you the license, but also other agencies to tell them, okay, we will fulfill all the license requirements the same like a normal 4G network on the ground, but we are focusing on the aviation. And in the terminology of telecom, this is called private wireless. So we're going to have a private wireless networks all over Middle East and Africa. And in that sense, we are working with the regulator to see that we are able to fulfill, because this is a mature technology running since the last 15, 20 years. Now, to come to accelerate and to come to the key point of your question, this means a very close planning with the airlines, because the airlines do not want to have any aircraft pulled out of the service because it's revenue generating. So how long does that take? How to make a plan? This is something we're doing with multiple airlines today, discussing when the airlines goes into service, what are the aircrafts that will be ordered so that we can pre-install the equipment. It's called line fit. And from that part, we are able to bring the aircraft ready for service even before touching the ground for the first time. So there are different scenarios on how we are able to establish that, but it depends on the airline, and that's why we are trying to customize our rollout plan per the airline. The acceleration will come, of course, by accelerating our supply chain, being ready to run multiple airline operations in multiple countries at the same time. So we've been working very hard the last 6 months. As I said before, we signed our first, contract between the Saudi investor and the Germans mid of last year. We signed our first contractual binding contract with STC in February, and we're looking forward to have our first operation in Q1 2024, inshallah.
What other markets are you setting sight on?
First of all, you need to stand on your feet before you walk. You need to walk before you start running. So the most important thing is to have a solid operations, and the anchor country in the region is simply Saudi, for a very simple reason. You have 2.5 to 3 hours flight. So once we have that up and running, then the airlines from the other countries will be interested in. So Saudi is the starting point. Then we are covering basically all the GCC countries going forward, and then going into Egypt, North Africa. Now, why is this important? Because we follow the aviation traffic. So if you want to do business, you look on your addressable market, where is your highest paid users, which areas. I will not go in countries where there is no aviation, or maybe one flight every week, right? So I will go where there is a demand for airlines. There is a demand coming from Europe and the other countries to come in. And at the same time, as we mentioned earlier, we would like to expand a seamless connectivity from Europe. So all the inflow and outflow from Europe, from Middle East and Africa, back and forth, this needs to be covered. And that's why we are working with our partners in Germany, with all the airlines that they are equipping in Europe, that they can also have a roaming on the network in Arabia.
Unfortunately, this brings us to the end of our conversation today. Would you like to add anything, Mohamed?
We are bringing something new, and we are taking the opportunity to show our capabilities. During the coming weeks, there will be a major event which we call the Aviation Interior Show. It's going to be in Hamburg, and this is where Skyfive will have its first booth over there. And we are looking forward to welcome a lot of our future and current customers from the aviation as well as the regulatory, to introduce the technology, show them the live network in Europe and the capability and the performance, and then see how we can replicate this high performance in Middle East and Africa as well.
Thank you. Thank you so much, Mohamed. It was great having you.
Much appreciated.
Thank you.
Thank you.